professionals on college-going topics like how to help families with the FAFSA to make sure that they're able to best serve their students. We have parent trainers that just work with families to help their kids navigate the post-secondary process. We have a phone bank. We have 800 numbers people can call and get college-going advice. We have staff for that. And then my area is called College Access and Outreach, and that's where the community worker position lives. So I'm going to share some slides. I've talked through like 2 of them already. I'm not good scripted. So I'm going to share my slides here, and that'll kind of guide us. And then if you are a visual learner versus an auditory learner, we've got it covered here. Okay, so we've talked about that. So the ISACorps community worker position was created 11 years ago, about 12, almost 12, 11 and a half now, with the idea of hiring new college grads and training them to be professional college-going mentors, coaches, to work in the communities that these folks are from. We work according to the Illinois Community College District map. So that was our strategy to make sure that no community was left behind when we created this position. So here you see the community college map. We don't work for the community colleges. We don't work in them. We just use that geographic breakdown to make sure the entire state has access to this college-going mentor coach. So we serve all 39 community college districts, and we typically have 2 people for every community college district. Now, some communities, like all the way down in the bottom of the purple zone, we have 1 person because it's not a super populated area. It's very rural, and 1 person can handle that number of partnerships there. And then we have Chicago, where we might have 4 people in a community college district. But on average, it's about 2. And in total, we employ up to 120 community workers across the state every year. So every spring, I go to college fairs and speak to classes and all of these kinds of activities to spread the word of our opportunity. So what we look for applicants is people that will have their degree by this coming spring, so May, June, whenever Knox graduation is, and are within 6 years of high school graduation. So the reason that we have that as a criteria is because this is considered a near peer position, meaning we're looking for people that have achieved that college degree goal, but are as close in age as possible to the teenagers that you would be helping and serving. So 6 years is the maximum at the time of application. Plus, if you've ever worked with kids before, you know by the time you're 28, they start thinking you're old, right? So if you do the math and you're 6 years out of high school, when you graduate college, that's 24. And then you work in the job for a few years, you're 27, right? And so you can avoid being classified as old by the teenagers you're working with. We also ask for folks to make a 2-year minimum commitment to be in this position. And we also max out the number of years you can hold this position at 3, going back to that near peer mentorship model. So that little math illustration puts you at around 27 at the end of 3 years. And so we want to keep that age range, that kind of 9-year max. And because we work across community college districts, we also need our folks to have access to transportation they can use for work purposes. When we are through with this COVID mess, it's quite typical for people to be in a couple of different schools in one day. And so we need folks to be able to get place to place without any concern, any slowdown. All right, so I believe my next screen is a little video. It is. So we're going to try this. We're going to see if this works. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to pull the video up directly through YouTube. Sometimes it doesn't like being presented this way. But this will illustrate a little bit more about the position, and you'll hear some schools as well as people working in this role talk about the experience. Oh, I'm sorry. That was me. I goofed, sorry.
showing kids that there's a way to do so when people are telling them that they can't do it. That's what makes me excited about doing my job every day.
Being able to help the people in your community, I'd say that was really one of the most important aspects for me. It was really cool.
Being able to make a difference, not just in your community, but in your state, just by working with one person.
Brianna helped me with finding a school that would be the right fit for me, looking over the financial aid packages to help me understand how much money I would have to pay.
They can do things to help our students gain admission into colleges and universities or trade schools.
It always came back to, did you fill out the FAFSA? Did you fill out the FAFSA? There was just a lot of questions that I didn't know what to include to answer the questions that they were asking me.
They had the FAFSA done, and it was really just like one little minor error that they had to correct. And I remember the parent at the end crying and just telling me how happy she was that I was able to help her.
What's my fee for this? When she was like, no, this is a service that ISACorps offers. I was like, oh my gosh.
They have all that background knowledge of federal and state programs, even general how to prepare for college, so that when they're talking with families, what it's going to take and what they should be looking for.
They go out of their way to schedule times with our students' parents, to offer workshops in the evenings.
Having the conversations and very realistic conversations about what college is like, so she can get a better idea of what she's getting herself into when it comes to that point in fall where she's starting her college career. It's very, very exciting. So I know when she starts, I'll be texting her like, how's that first class going?
It's easy for them to relate to them. They share the same kind of music tastes and things like that, and it makes it easier for them to relax and ask them questions that maybe they want to ask somebody who is older.
I find that I can connect a lot easier with the students because I've been in their shoes and I've experienced similar struggles.
ISACorps members bring, tremendous amount of soft skills. One that I think is really key is patience.
They maybe had a bad day at home, and the fact that our ISAC reps are young and intelligent and have gone through that stage in their life recently, it makes it easier for them to talk with them.
To know that I was making a difference in that school and making a difference for those students because they were getting their applications in and done and they were excited about it. You will gain not only the valuable work experience, but the valuable group of your peers. You can text, you can Facebook, you can call, and they will give you their input.
The opportunities that open up for you after you're done with the Corps is amazing.
We think that it's producing professional employees. It's going to help them develop skills that even if they didn't stay in higher education, they could take these skills to work even in a private employment position.
I was looking for open positions and applying. I knew that speaking to all of the experience and all of the work that I had done was something that I thought gave me a leg up.
Just got to know people who have left the Corps going out to do a lot of different things. I have a friend who's working on a campaign that I worked with the Corps. I have friends who still work for ISAC in just a different capacity now. For me in particular, I grew so much professionally from my time with the Corps.
I really came a long way. I overcame all these challenges, and now I'm here today and I'm successful and I'm helping students trying to do the same thing.
I get to see the change I'm making.
You'd be surprised to see what you can accomplish by being in the Corps.
Okay, so on the job, what this looks like, you would be a full-time professional near-peer mentor working in schools and organizations within your community. We work with both parents, teachers, counselors, as well as community-based organizations like a college prep program, a Boys and Girls Club, those kinds of places. We focus on low-income and first-generation high school students. However, we work with everyone and anyone, so we would never turn any student away seeking our support and guidance. And we work to help them figure out their post-secondary plans. We talk a lot about college, but it's really anything post-secondary, whether they're looking for a trade, they're considering the military, or they want a PhD. Our job is the same, to help them figure that out, to help them do the investigations about where they can get that experience, and then get the applications in and figure out the financial aspects of it as well. We offer the application assistance, the matching kind of guidance, right? The right fit kind of support, as well as support with FAFSAs and private scholarship searches and comparing award letters and all of those different things that I'm sure all of you can realize. We can look back when we're nearing the end of college and see all of the various aspects that we had to figure out or come in knowing, or learn on the ground running. And so our job is to help share that information that we have gathered going through the college process to help the next generation of students get through their higher education plan. So our hiring process is open now for our spring hiring. So the application is actually online, and I'll give you the link here in a couple minutes, a few slides down. So what happens when people apply is the application goes straight to HR. They review for those basic criteria that I mentioned, 6 years out of high school max, will have a degree by this summer, that kind of thing. And if the applicant ticks all of those boxes, then those applicants are sent to the managers, so 2 hiring managers, to review the application, the cover letter, and resume. You will have 3 pieces to your application. And then those folks that they'd like to interview are shared with me. So I'd be your first contact back, inviting you to interview. Our interviews start in late February and run into May. We aim to have all of our openings filled by the end of May, and then everyone has a June 1st start date. Okay. Because we work with children, we do fingerprint background checks. So after the interview, if the managers want to keep you moving in the selection process, you would again hear from me on how to get that background check done. So I'd give you all the details you need to know. And I would contact HR to check references and any other loose ends HR needs to wrap up. Then HR lets us know when a hiring decision can be made on the applicant. And the managers look at what you told us in your application are your preferred community college districts. So what area of the state are you interested in serving? And then again, you would hear from me another time with that verbal job offer. So I would give you a call. I'd say, Kendra, we'd like to bring you onto the team to serve in the Carl Sandburg Community College District. I'd run through all the details with you. And if Kendra told me, yes, I'd like to accept this position, then I get out of the middle now and HR comes in and officially brings you on board. So start doing paperwork to get you on payroll and all of that. The first thing that happens is our summer training. So our summer training is a thing. It has a name, CorCon. It has a logo. It has a culture. It is a thing. It is a formal, pretty rigorous, intense full-time training. Non-COVID years, this is a 6-week residential program. So we identify a campus partner somewhere in Illinois, and all 120 community workers from across the state gather on that campus. We provide the housing and lunch Monday through Friday. We train 9 to 5 for 6 weeks straight. Evenings and weekends are free if you wanted to go home, or you could choose to stay the full 6 weeks on the campus. Because of COVID, we had to revamp our training program last year, and we stretched it out over 10 weeks and played with the delivery model because the idea of looking at a computer screen 9 to 5 for 6 weeks was overwhelming and intimidating for everyone. So we made it 10 weeks, and we played with the format to be a combination of some self-directed work, some reading, some online curriculum, like taking a college class online, mixed in with small group meetings via a virtual platform such as this, like a Google Meet, a Zoom kind of thing, and as well, live training presentations. We will almost certainly do training again that way this summer, 2021. I'm just kind of waiting for that final gavel to come down and hit the table and say it will be so. But I'm explaining both of those because our training program is required every single summer, not just your first. So while this summer may be virtual, the following summer, hopefully, would be in person once again. Who knows how things will change? Maybe it'll be 5 weeks online and 1 week in person going forward. I don't know, but I want you to know about both of those possibilities. And then the rest of the slide talks about some of the things that we cover in the training. The training's a lot. I always tell people your brain will be 10 times bigger at the conclusion of summer training. You will be a FAFSA expert. We dive most deeply into all things related to financial aid because, let's face it, the biggest barrier to higher education is financing higher education. So we talk a lot about not just FAFSA, but also those private scholarship searches, all the various types of aid, where the best places to look for student loans are and why one is better than the other, what is subsidized versus unsubsidized, right? All of those different details, as well as talking about kind of the sociological context of college access. What are the various barriers culturally, economically, et cetera? We go into financial aid. We talk about ACT, SAT. What does test optional really mean? We talk about career exploration tools that you can do with high school students that are trying to figure out their way. And then we also do a lot of kind of practical training on presenting, event planning, partnership building, all of those different kinds of things. This is a full-time professional position. So the salary for this job is $30,000 per year because we ask people to make that minimum 2-year commitment to this role. ISAC offers a financial incentive. That's the state lingo. I call it a bonus. At the conclusion of each year of service in this position, you would receive a bonus of $2,500. We also offer a full benefits package. So health, vision, dental, life insurance, retirement plan contributions. This fourth one, I think, is probably the biggest, one of the biggest benefits of this position is the tuition waiver. So this is not ISAC specific. This is for any state employee in any kind of agency. In Illinois, state employees have access to the tuition waiver after they've been in their jobs for 6 months. The waiver is good at Illinois public universities. So U of I, UIC, Northern, Southern, Eastern, Western, Northeastern, Illinois State, Chicago State, Governor State. This is a great opportunity, again, because we hire people fresh out of undergrad. If you are considering doing any master's level work, any graduate school, this is a great opportunity to start working toward that higher degree on a tuition waiver. ISAC also provides a laptop and a cell phone. So as you can probably conclude on your own, this is not an office-based position. As I mentioned, we're working our communities, schools and nonprofit organizations, college access programs and such. And so our office is where our laptop and cell phone are. So it's one of the reasons why we have been at 100% operating level since March when COVID happened last year, because we were already set up to be working from home essentially. The primary difference for our staff is instead of being in a school, in front of a classroom, in front of an auditorium, we're going into Google Classrooms, right? We're using technology to do our jobs. We are 100% virtual still. We have been since March. And I like to emphasize that because if you pay attention at all to the governor's press conferences or that kind of thing, our Department of Health and Human Services, we have to follow their regulations. And so we are 100% virtual with no end date in sight at this moment, which is great. I take comfort in that. I know that my superiors are looking out for my best interest, not wanting me to fall ill, and also not wanting whoever it is that I'm serving to fall ill. We also have great paid time off. This position comes with 12 paid sick days, 12 paid holidays, and 5 weeks of paid vacation. Kendra can tell you, an entry-level job, you would be hard-pressed to find any other entry-level position that offers 5 weeks of paid vacation. It's a great benefit. And really, it's because we work so closely with schools. So when the schools in the community that you're working in go on December break and spring break, you can't work. And it's not your fault. So those are paid vacation weeks for you. And then that leaves you with 10 additional days or 2 weeks of vacation days that you can schedule during the course of the year where you'd like them. So people that are doing grad school might schedule some days off for finals week, that kind of thing. And then these last 2 bullets I'll put together. So this is the other side of my job. I'm kind of the bookends to the experience. I help build the team and get you through training in the beginning. And then once everybody's in place and working through their community schools and partnerships, I provide ongoing support and guidance. Again, I think it's one of the unique aspects of this position of working with ISAC in this role. I am 50 years old. I've never had a job that helped me find another job, but that's what I do for ISACorps. So we have ongoing training in addition to the summer program. We have monthly training webinars to keep folks up to date on changes happening in DC, changes happening in Springfield, changes in higher education and college access in general. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, the government finally passed another stimulus check bill, right? Well, embedded in that legislation is a bunch of stuff around FAFSA simplification and other things related to higher ed. So these monthly ongoing trainings help keep our staff informed of things so that you're bringing current information back to your communities. And then we have a number of professional development opportunities. We send folks to conferences, webinars, seminars, and then I provide personal career planning as well as monthly career development workshops. So just this past Friday, we had a workshop on salary negotiations, for example. So much of what Kendra and her staff, her office colleagues do, I do specifically for people in this position. And part of that is connecting you to our alumni network, which now going on 12 years is well over 500 people. I think we're at like 587. So coming up on 600 people that are after 12 years, often in directorships, managerial positions, and they love to hire from our pool of community workers. So it's a great network to be a part of. Here are the links that I promised. So this first link is where you can read more. You could watch that video again if you wanted to. And recruiter.isac.org is our HR website. So you would go there and you would look for ISACorps community worker. That's the position. You can read the full job description and throw your hat in the ring. And then finally, here is my contact information. And you are all welcome to email me, call me anytime. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Share my information if you have a roommate that you think would be a good fit. And I'm going to stop talking so that you can ask me questions.
I do have a question for the students. They, for instance, Knox is a little bit different with our trimesters, what they call them, or tri-terms. Mm-hmm. Our college doesn't, like commencement doesn't finish until it's usually the first week of June. So mm-hmm. 6 is graduation. Would that interfere with them, with anyone, at Knox, whatever, as being able to, for the June 1st start date per se?
No, not at all. There are a number of colleges, particularly in Illinois, that have June graduation dates.
Okay, good.
Paul does, North Central does, yeah. Not a problem.
That's good.
We typically, we have a June 1st start date, but the first thing that happens in June is getting your business cards, getting your laptops, right? All of that kind of technical stuff. And then the training usually begins right around June 15th, assuming the 15th isn't a Saturday or Sunday. So the second half of June is when the formal training begins.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to think of some common questions that I get. So in terms of major, you may have noticed that I didn't talk about majors. If you have a major that is relevant to this kind of work in some kind of way, if you have experiences relevant to this kind of work, you've tutored, you've been a mentor on your campus, that kind of thing, those are great. They are not required. So for example, this past hiring season, we hired some pre-med students. We hired a theater major. We hired a graphic designer, right? People come to this kind of work for a variety of reasons. Some people want to work with students and help them navigate their path. Some people want to be the help that they received or be the help they did not receive, right? To make things easier for others. So whatever your call is to this kind of work, your major and your experiences are far less important to us than your character, right? Do you care about the mission, the work that we're doing? Do you have the helping nature that's going to connect with students? Do you have the ability to talk to a variety of constituents? Do you know how to present yourself to a principal or a nonprofit executive director just as well as a 15-year-old, right? Can you make conversations with a variety of people, different kinds of relationships? So again, I'm kind of putting stuff back on Kendra and her office, but if you hear your career services staff talk about those soft skills, that interpersonal stuff, whatever they're telling you is absolutely right. The technical stuff we're going to train you on. We don't expect you to know the technical stuff. We expect you to come to the table with being coachable, being reliable, right? Having that interpersonal skill, ability, those kinds of things. Yeah, so all majors are welcome. All paths are welcome. In terms of where you would be looking to work, as I mentioned, we serve every nook and cranny of the state of Illinois. So on the application, you will see a question asking you for your top 2 preferred community college districts. We really focus on hiring people that have a connection to the communities that they're serving. Maybe you grew up there, maybe you want to stay around Knox and you want to serve the community where you went to college. That's perfectly fine. You're going to tell us those 2 areas. And then as we interview, we're going to learn more about your interest in those areas, your connection to those areas. And if you have more than 2, again, we can talk about that in the interview. But we really focus on hiring people connected to the communities that they're serving, because the dynamic that we're trying to create is we want the teenagers to see themselves in you. We want the teenager to look at Marissa and say, oh, Marissa's from here. She knows what it's like around here, and she made it through college. She can help me too. Right. And so again, that near peer age range is you're close enough that they see you as a peer, kind of like a big sister, big brother dynamic, so that, help build that conversation. And I see Marissa has a question. Go ahead, Marissa.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things about Knox is it is a variety of students. So what would you recommend for students that aren't from Illinois and have honestly no community ties to anywhere but Galesburg?
That's perfectly fine. Yeah, if you have interest in staying in Illinois, a lot of folks go to college and that's where they end up kind of living out their lives. I'm a perfect example. I'm from Connecticut and here I am in Chicago 30 years later. So I get it. So you could absolutely put down the surrounding areas, Carl Sandburg or whatever that next place closest is, north, south, east, west. That's not a problem. Thanks for asking that question. And by the way, you don't have to have lived there. Last year, we hired someone from, I don't know, I think he was from Texas, and he was hired to work in Lake County, which is north of the Chicago area, because he spent summers there with family where he had cousins and grandparents and all of that. And he saw his cousins struggle. And so he wanted to give back in that community where his family was from. Vanessa, do employees in grad school struggle to do the work and do grad school at the same time? That's a great question. So any given semester, about half of our community workers are taking a graduate class or 2. This is a full-time job. So the state of Illinois quantifies full-time work week as 37.5 hours per week. So basically an 8-hour day with a lunch break. So you would be looking at grad school part-time, a class or 2, and that really depends on you and what else is in your life, how much you feel like you can manage. Some people do 1 class at a time. Some people will do 1 class in the fall and 2 in the spring. Why? Because fall is busier, because that's FAFSA season, right? And we do tons of FAFSA stuff. So that's really a personal decision. I will tell you though, most master's degrees can be completed part-time in 3 years. So if you stayed in the position for 3 years and used that tuition waiver each semester you were eligible, you could just about finish up a master's degree on a waiver, which, I went to private school for undergrad. So by the time I got to grad school, I really needed some financial assistance, right? A lower price tag. So it's really, again, I know I'm biased, but I just think it's such a tremendous benefit. to be able to get through most of a master's degree, basically paying student fees and textbooks, is fantastic. That was a great question. Thanks.
I will second that. And we try to, as much as possible, tell students, and I know a lot of them, like who are going into like MBA programs, which I know not all the students on here are interested in, but is that go and get some work experience, whatever else, and then companies will help you. Some companies will help you pay for that. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I worked full time through my master's program. Mine was different, where I don't have a family of my own with children or anything like that, so I didn't have any responsibilities outside that, Vanessa. So I think it's definitely possible to do. I guess it just like Renee said, if you get tuition waiver for 2 to 3 years, take full advantage of that and take your time.
Yep. Yeah, same. I thought I would go to grad school full time, but landed a professional job that I was really interested in like 2 months before I was supposed to start master's program full time. And so I changed my enrollment status, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I absolutely loved working full time and going to grad school part time because I could apply immediately what it was that I was learning in class. It was tremendous.
Speaking of interviews, you talked about during the interview process. Can you give the students some help on what kind of interview technique or skills or anything like that you're looking for?
Sure.
And I ask that because we have our virtual mock interview week next week, so where students can actually get some of this help and practice and hone their skills. For interviews.
Absolutely. So thanks to COVID, we've done a lot of things differently in this past year. And so doing our interviews virtually is big shift. Some companies have been doing it for a long time. Little side note, before I came into this job, I worked in University Career Services, so doing what Kendra does. And in my career planning class, I would do mock interviews electronically like this, by video, and my students would always say, "It's not real. We need a real experience. Companies don't do that." Well, so the first thing that I do, the way that our interview process has been going is I'll reach out, I'll send an email to the applicants that we want to interview, and I'll ask for, like a 15, 20-minute appointment so we can test the technology. So I'll send them a link, and it's just to me, so that we can kind of troubleshoot and make sure that there's no problem connecting. And then I'll take the time to give them a lot of the same information that I've given you to review things. So we use a web-based platform called WebEx, similar to this or Zoom or Skype, right? They're all pretty much the same. And we do a panel interview. Now, I know that's intimidating, but our interview is not intense. There's really no need to practice anything. It's really, like I said earlier, we're really focused on the person, the character of the applicant that we're meeting. So there are no technical questions. We have conversation. We book an hour. We usually use only about 40 minutes or so, depending on how chatty we get. But we really just want to learn about you and hear your experiences, particularly as it pertains to your college journey, right? Your educational path, the highs and lows and all of that. There are some questions about your interest in the position, what you feel like you bring to this, how well you feel you connect with other people, youth in particular. And then we give you lots of time to bring questions to us to make sure that you have the information you need to make a decision for yourself. So my number one tip there would be to really think about what questions you might have. You probably hear that a lot. You probably hear you should ask questions at the end of an interview. But the way I talk about it with people is really, this is a two-way street. We get nervous when we're interviewing because we feel like there's a big interrogation lamp above our heads, right? And we're being scrutinized. But really, you should be scrutinizing us back, right? You should be making sure that this is the kind of work that you want to do. You feel like you could be successful. The people, the managers are folks that you feel like you can work well with. This is an opportunity for you to grow and develop, all of those different kinds of things. So I would encourage you before any interview, not just with me, with my team, but to think about what kind of environment do you need to do well? What kind of environment do you hope to have as your first entry, right, out of college, to make sure that you're supported well and coached in the way you feel like you need to be coached? Do you have the support you need? Do you like a lot of hand-holding, one-on-one kind of support with managers? Or do you like more independence, like spell out my task and let me fly, right? There's no right or wrong with that. It's just knowing what your best fit is. Just like when you were searching for colleges, how'd you know Knox was the right fit, right? How do you know working for ISAC would be the right fit? So really think about those things in advance and bring those questions. If we cover them during the course of the conversation and we get to the end of the interview and I say, Vanessa, do you have any questions for us? And I've already answered all your questions, it's okay to say that. Well, actually, I had 5 questions written down, but you did such a great job. You actually covered them all for me. So thank you very much. So you're conveying to the interviewers, I prepped, I had my questions. You just knocked it out of the park. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's a little tip. What else can I tell you about? Oh, let me say, I just got an idea. I said earlier that one of the criteria is having transportation. Now, I know Galesburg, so you might have transportation because there's not a lot of city transportation in Galesburg. But if you don't, that is okay right now because we are working completely virtual. So the earliest someone would need to have transportation for work purposes would be later in the summer before the next school year began. So if that is any hesitation, you can put that on the back burner for a little while. Another question I get sometimes is, if I apply to be in the Galesburg area, are you going to surprise me and send me to East St. Louis or Chicago or something? The answer is no. We really look at you first and foremost for those 2 districts, 2 locations you put on your application, and then anything else that may have come up in our conversations. If, let's say, you want to be in the Galesburg Community College District and there are no positions at the point that we're ready to hire you, then the managers would say, well, I have an opening in, I can't think of what the next one over is. I don't know. Let's say Illinois Central, right? I think that one's not too far away. Illinois Central Community College District is vacant. See if Danica wants to work in Illinois Central. So then I would give you a call and I'd let you know. Danica, we'd love you to join the team. However, the Carl Sandburg district is full, but we have a vacancy in Illinois Central. How would you feel? What do you think about working in that community college district, right? And so there would be no surprises. If we really want you on the team, we're going to offer you that next best thing. So then you'd have the opportunity to kind of discuss and decide if that's what you want to do. We do hire, by the way, every single spring. So if this year didn't work out, or if you wanted to do something else for a year, whatever, but you like this idea, you can come back and see me next year. Are you able to change your placement after you've been working in a certain location for some time? Generally, no, because other people are working in those districts. There have been, on occasion, opportunities to make that move. Someone resigns for whatever reason, right? Family changes, they get married and husband moves, whatever. So it's not unheard of, but it's atypical. So, but a possibility could come up if the timing is right and the opening is where you would like to be. Thank you for asking that question. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll put my email here again in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out to me if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation, or if you have any questions after our time today, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with anybody. Like I was saying in the beginning, I'm an extrovert and I'm at home for 10, 11 months now. So talk to me.
Totally understandable. I get it too.
I get excited when the phone rings, like, woohoo!
So I get excited to get an email, even though it's not conversation.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate you to take the time today, Renee. And I know that the students on here will value, like, sorry, it's not coming out right. This will be great for them.
Wonderful. Yeah. Feel free to reach out. There's lots of resources on the ISAC website if you want to just learn more about the agency or the position, or I can send you more information as well. But thanks so much for joining me, and thank you, Kendra, for helping arrange this time.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.